This is a 12 volt, 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. And this is a battery on steroids. Any questions? Good, because this is what we're going to talk about today. But I'm not going to bury the lead. I know you're curious about this unique mod. Take it off, you have a normal battery. Use it in any normal way. But put it back on, and you have a unique feature that actually allows you to hook up solar panels directly to the battery and output directly from the battery. So today we're going to be digging into this mod extensively. We're going to do our normal load and capacity test. We're going to talk about all the other unique features of this battery. But first up, I'm going to charge it. Then I'm going to go over the basic product overview. And then we're going to have some fun today with this unique and interesting battery that I have never seen before. So just like other batteries I've tested, the first thing I'm going to do is charge it up. I have taken the mod off just because I'm not familiar with the battery and I don't want to cause any issues. Let's turn on some juice, and while we're doing that, we can talk about the product a little bit. It does come with these mounting plates that let you attach it to a rig like an RV. I will not be using those today. It does come with this manual. Let's quickly go over the product specs. Of course, it is lithium iron phosphate. It is 100 amp hour. Nominal voltage is 12.8. Maximum charging voltage is 14.6. Maximum discharge current is 100 amps. Charging current, optimal is 20 amps. Maximum is 50 amps. We shouldn't be getting anywhere near that. Cycle lifespan is 3,000 cycles at 80%. I will put the product size and weight underneath. It does have a 5-year warranty. So that's about it. Let's wait until this thing gets all charged up, and then we'll do some capacity and some load tests, and we'll see what this battery's all about. Well, it passed the first test. When the battery got fully charged, the BMS shut down the charging. You can see nothing's coming through. So about to do some load testing, but before we begin, a couple things I want to go over. First of all, I've taken the hub off. It does say to disconnect this before applying a load or to hook up a solar charger. So this has been removed. Another thing I want to note is their terminals are really, really nice. Most of these terminals, these batteries, they're decent, but they're not as good as these. I really like these terminals. So I'm going to quickly go over my test setup. I have a 2,000 watt inverter. Of course, it's hooked up to the battery. I've got my kilowatt. That'll tell us how much juice is going through it. This also tells me how much juice is going through it. The battery does not have Bluetooth, so we're not going to be able to directly monitor the battery. So I'm going to apply loads that are common. I'm going to do a series of power tools. I'm going to do a small inductive motor. I'm going to do a heat gun, shop vac, just see what it can do. It says it can do 100 amps continuous, so we're going to see if it can do that and stay there for a few minutes. And then we're also going to see if a big load comes on, if the internal BMS shuts it down to keep it safe. So we're going to do all that testing. Starting now, let's turn this thing on. And I like to start out hard with a heat gun just to see how well they do. So here we go, heat gun. So the first few tests are really good. It was able to handle the load, and then when the load got above 100 amps for a few seconds, it shut down. So now I'm going to run some power tools and see if it can stay near that 1,000, 1,100 watts for a few minutes. So I've reset everything, and now I'm going to run some power tools and a small inductive load, and we'll see how well it does. No problem. So I ran that for a couple of minutes, and it was around the 900 to 1,000 watt. Ran perfectly fine, no issues at all. So now I'm going to push it a little bit harder. I'm going to have the heat gun on, the inductive load on, and then see if it'll run some power tools all at the same time. So it definitely can hit capacity and run 100 amps, and then the internal BMS shuts it down after a few seconds if it gets over that. So the internal BMS is working fine. You can definitely hit capacity. Everything seems to be running pretty good. One thing I've noticed about this battery is if the BMS does trip the overcurrent protection, it takes the battery a few minutes to reset. You have to turn the battery back on, and then you have to wait about 5 minutes before it'll power back up. See, it's still not powering back up. So I turned the battery on and off several times, and it's been a few minutes. Let's see if it boots back up now. So this is now my third attempt. This button on the top turns on, light showing that there's some capacity left in the battery. Still nothing. And I know there's nothing wrong with my inverter because I've attached a different battery to it and the inverter works fine. So there's just something about this battery not resetting that is a little bit problematic. I'll try again. So I've tried multiple times now over a few minutes. I want to show you what I'm getting. You see the internal voltage is under 4. So I'm not exactly sure what is going on with that. So I disconnected the inverter and the battery. And now we're getting 13. So the good news is the battery is incredibly safe. When the overcurrent protection hits at over 100 amps, it shuts the battery down. The bad news is it takes about 10 minutes to get the battery back on, and I had to disconnect the inverter to get it to work. So I'm not exactly sure what that is. The closest thing it says about that in the manual is it says if you've fully discharged it at a continuous 100 amp, we do not recommend you recharging it at 50 amps immediately, which will trigger high temperature charging protection. So maybe the BMS is hitting high temperature protection because of the load and it shuts the battery down. I don't know. The battery appears to be fine. It's just annoying that it took about 10 minutes and I had to disconnect everything. And maybe when I disconnected it, that was just a coincidence. Maybe that had nothing to do with it. But it took about 10 minutes for the battery to come back to the state where it would run this, and it was at 3.6 or so volts for a few minutes. So that's my experience doing this. You know, you never know what's going to happen. So now let's talk about this cool hub. To begin with, to remove it, you just grab the strap, take it off. It is an Anderson connection, you can see right there, and it has a cool cover. And while it's off, let's talk about some things here. So with it removed, you can use this battery as a normal battery. You can put it in series, you can put it in parallel, you can charge it with a solar charge controller, you can put it on an inverter, you can do all the normal things you could do with a battery. But if you're going to do all those things, make sure the hub is off. So now let's test the functionality of the hub. So to put it back on, you just put that cover down and it slides in. To turn it on, you just push this button, and it's got a variety of ways to bring electricity in and out. So real quick, let's go over them. It's got USB-A and USB-C out, 18 watt max on the A, 30 max on the C. You can bring electricity in, 100 watt max, which I can't test because I don't have that type of connector, but you can output up to 100 watts on the USB-C 2. So it does have this, which is another thing that is kind of old school, but if you needed it, it's good to have. So again, Anderson connection, and then it goes to you know, the old-fashioned, what I call cigarette lighter. I don't know what they're really called, but if you have old things that use this, this is a cool thing. So what I am going to test is what I have, which is a GoPro battery charger. So you plug that in like that, and then just put the battery in like you normally would. And you can see it's charging up. All right, so let's take that out. Put this cover back on. And then the last thing I want to talk about is this. This is a way to bring solar energy in. It is an Anderson connection, and I have MC4. So I did have to buy this adapter. It does not come with this. So if you have MC4 connectors like I do, you will need to buy this. And it just plugs in like that. And then you'll be able to attach some solar panels. Now remember, this is for small stuff. You know, you're not going to power a big thing. You're not going to bring a huge amount of energy in. But if you want to bring small things in, you want to charge some phones, tablets, you want to bring in a small amount of solar energy in, this thing is perfect for that. So now for my recap, I'm going to tell you what I liked about the battery and what I didn't like about the battery, and where this would be good to use. What's the best user application for the battery? So to start with what I like about it. The hub. The hub's a star. It's a unique feature that you will not see anywhere else. It is a really cool feature that really expands the power, the portability, and the usefulness of the battery. I like that the battery performed well. I was able to run power tools and all sorts of loads at a 900,000 or so watts, no problem. I like the fact that the battery's protected. Got to 1300 watts or so. After a few seconds, it shut it down, which is what it's supposed to do. Protects the battery. And when I was charging it, it got to 14.6. BMS again, shut it down. Protected the battery. So it's very well protected. I really like that about the battery. Performed well, really good protection. Has a great, interesting hub. Now, what I don't like about the battery, that overcurrent protection is too zealous. It took 10, maybe even 15 minutes for the battery to come back online. It's frustrating and annoying, and no other battery does that. Most batteries, you hit overcurrent protection, shuts the battery down, resets almost instantaneously. Should not take 15 minutes for the battery to come back online. Didn't like that. So where would you use the battery? Well, you take the hub off and you have a standard battery. You could use it in any solar setup. Parallel, series, do anything you like with it. Put the hub on and it opens up a whole new world. You can bring DC current in, you can do DC current out. So you can charge your laptop, you can charge your cell phone, you can hook up small solar panel to it, you can even hook up DC in. So you have the power of a portable power station without the size and the weight of one of those. So it's the size of a battery, but it's kind of a hybrid what has some of the functionality of a power station. So I can see people using it, RVers, campers, off-gridders, any of those type of people using this where they want to have some electricity, but they don't want to haul a bunch of stuff with them. Compact, lightweight, easy. I can see a lot of outdoors people using this battery for sure. So if you've used this battery or have any questions about what you saw, please leave a comment below. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to everyone soon.